to make sure that small businesses grow in this country, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is very, very emphatic on that, and he shows his concern. Let me bring in Mr. Collins Nwosu. 125 billion earmarked with different level of deployment. Now, how can capital and tax incentives help address gaps in the entrepreneurship development, especially in critical areas of agri, ICT, and vocational training?
Thank you for that question. It's something that is not just in your mind, it is in the mind of Nigerians, because policies have been heard of. We've heard of policies, and when it comes to implementation, the ordinary man on the street is not sure how those things happened. So we hear numbers, and then we don't see the effect that come with those numbers. So what do we think would make this different? I mean, the steps that we're seeing looks like it's going to make it different, but let's look at it this way. Capital will usually flow in the direction of where it is secure, and it is wonderful that the government has decided to be one of the biggest investors, so to speak, in its people, right? But when you put that money into the system, the thing is, for every investor, you want to see an outcome. So this government wants to see an outcome of boosting the economy, which is beautiful, but other things, it doesn't work in isolation. So the infrastructure that is required is important to make it work. So where are the roads to move the goods? If someone in the village receives 50,000 naira, for instance, and is able to work on their farm, and where do they take the crops that they've aggregated to? How does it get into the cities? So we still have those gaps. We still have there's still that insecurity gap that also needs to be dealt with. So as much as this is beautiful, there's need to look into those sectors. Another thing you would see is that because every investor wants to get their money back, they will put funds into where infrastructure is. If you look at how much we received as a nation, Q1 reports in terms of investment, foreign direct investment into the country, you will notice that banks and services receive the bulk of the sum. Over 300 million going into the banks, about 200 million US dollars going into the services sector. And why services? Because there seems to be an infrastructure. If I put something in, something comes out. So we need to, as much as institutions are looking at, oh, let them get these funds, let them get these funds, let them get these funds. We have to also look at the infrastructure that makes it work. So yes, the tax structure is not a physical infrastructure, but is very powerful. So the multiple taxation is dealt with, but we also need physical infrastructure that is to be put in place. And I also want to top it up with this: the disappearance of the institutions or these MSMEs is coupled with information gaps. So there's a huge knowledge gap that needs to be that we need to begin to bridge, because running a business is no longer just running a business for survival. It has to be something that we're running to thrive. So there is need for training and retraining, especially when it comes to product development standards, in management of funds. You know, you don't receive, say, 50,000 naira and you think, oh, God has helped me, let me go and pay some bills. You need to invest it. So a lot of training, a lot of information, a lot of advocacy is going to have to go out. That will be like information infrastructure if this is to work. I think that needs to be looked into critically.
Indeed, the present economic difficulties and calls for a national awakening. We'll take another break. The conversation